What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. In this video I'm going to bring you an overview of the infotainment system on a 2020 Subaru Outback. This is currently me and my wife's one of our primary vehicles that we use. We've had it for a while, and the infotainment system is extremely complicated and kind of one of the more talked about things about this car, so I thought I'd give it just like a general guide on just going through the system and kind of how I have it set up and what I actually do with it, what I like, don't like. Not going to be a full in-depth tutorial, but more of just my general thoughts on it. So again, this is for the 2020 Subaru Outback. This will also apply to the Legacy. But you have the key here, so basically what we're just going to do is we're going to get in the car and we are going to turn it on and show you the infotainment system and kind of what we think of it. So once you get into the car, you just hit the start button and you always get this general flash screen at the beginning, kind of warning you, drive safely, the rules, all that jazz. It does go away on its own, or you press the agree button. So it is a little laggy starting up. I usually give it a good 30 seconds before I even try to touch the screen, just because it's a little bit buggy. I'm going to start here at the top, kind of work my way down and go over the general settings of it. So you have your outside temp, your time, and then your phone settings there. The screen up here is a little bit laggy to start off with, so you can actually adjust this. There's 5 different settings you can use. So you have that. You have navigation on this one, but it takes forever for it to start up, so you have to be aware of that. So if you're gonna use the navigation for the top, you need to just give it a couple minutes and it will actually show up, but it takes it a little bit. This is what I usually leave it on, where it has the oil temperature, water temp, and then your kind of 3-hour forecast, which is nice. And then you have just your temperature, so you'll have your location where you're at, your general weather info there. And then you have your X mode, which you can turn on and turn off as you see fit. X mode only works at 25 miles per hour or less, so keep that in mind. But that's general, the top screen. I always leave it on, well, maybe. So I always leave it on the oil temperature, water temperature, and weather. You can actually adjust this. I would show you how to do it, but it took me forever to figure out how to get into that setting, so we're not going to mess with that now. But that's just a general top screen. Now we get down with all your apps here. So this is generally where all your apps are located. So you have your shortcuts, which you can add here. I've not added any. I generally don't mess with that. You have your maps for navigation. So if you have navigation, you have that. And then you just hit the home screen down here at the bottom to get back to your actual home screen setting. You have radio, which is nice. You have a bunch of presets. I believe you can do up to 18 down here. It's kind of nice because you can scroll through AM, FM. You also have a source button on the steering wheel to do that, which I usually use just because this is a little bit busy for my tastes. But it's pretty responsive if you want to go through and change through the settings. The graphics sometimes take a little bit to load, so you have a little graphics here on the top that take a little bit. And these graphics only show up when you're in park. When you go to drive, they completely disappear. So not really sure why that is. If you ever want to change the tune or like your bass treble with your speakers, you can do it through there. That stays on most of the screens. You'll see that little icon there that you can push for that. Again, that's it for the regular stereo. And then you have your media. I currently have this hooked up to just standard Bluetooth, but I will give you an idea of what it's like when you do Apple CarPlay on here also. So the thing about this is that sometimes this will kind of give you a playlist of what you're going through. You can't actually select, oh yeah, you can. So you can select your songs if you want to scroll through. This is more, I think, for the passenger, because I don't think it's very safe to do that if you're driving. But you do have that. Again, you have your little adjustments up here if you want to customize your sound. And that's really it. You can do the browse if you want to browse your songs. Again, not safe while you're driving, but if you have a passenger, they can do that. You can also manage devices if you want to pick a different device. So if you and your wife are traveling and you want to use her phone, you can do that. It's pretty responsive. Again, it's not as responsive as Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, but that's generally what I use. You can also connect it through USB, which we have there. And then you have your phone icon. I don't ever use this, but it'll just basically bring up your phone list and you can make a phone call from it. I usually use the audio on the steering wheel, which actually works pretty well. And then you have your apps here. These, again, I do not use, but you have your Subaru Starlink. You got to disconnect your mobile device, so we won't mess with that. You have your travel link, your My Subaru. So I've actually had to use this when I had to use roadside assistance, and it actually worked pretty well. So again, it's a little laggy, it takes a little bit to get going, but it does work, and you can make an appointment if you want to schedule a service. I've never used that, I just use it online. Your Apple CarPlay, Android Auto are in here also, but they also pop up when you connect your phone, which I will show you. You have your car info, which doesn't have a lot. Your driving statistics, your advanced package. Basically what this does is it's just an info screen. So if you click on this, it'll tell you kind of what it means, and if you want to turn it off, leave it on. Things like that. Maintenance. So this actually is kind of nice. So it actually has when all your next maintenance is due. Again, pretty intuitive. I think if you ask me, you can just reset it. I assume they do that at the dealership if you take it there to get serviced. Subaru Starlink, my Subaru is an app, so we don't use that. And settings here is where things can get a little complicated. There's a ton of stuff here. I'm going to try to go over it as quick as possible. But basically your general, you can set your clock, display, Wi-Fi, reminder screen, all that jazz. Your camera, which you can adjust. And then your tire pressure, your home screen shortcuts, you can actually get rid of those altogether. The welcome screen where it says hello when you start it. You can actually add birthdays to this. So if you want to add someone's birthday, it will tell you happy birthday on that day when you start it up. Software updates, you got to be within Wi-Fi to do that. You can also reset it. You have your system information, which just tells you kind of what version you're on. Again, nothing too crazy there. Sound. So we will jump into that. That's where you change your audio. When I first bought this car, the beep sound for the phone ringtone and the text was so loud, I about jumped out of the car. So I had to turn that down, which you can do here. It was all the way up to 38, and I about freaked out when I got my first message because it was so loud. But you do have to adjust those. It took me a little while to get used to this. Again, there's where the text message one was, which it was set all the way to 38, so it kind of startled me when that happened. Again, it takes a little bit. You have to go through and mess with all this stuff because it was all jacked up when I got it first from the dealership. Navigation, you can adjust things here. I'm not going to go over all this, but there's a ton of stuff you can adjust there. I don't ever use the navigation in this. I just use Google Maps. So phone, manage devices, messages, your Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. Basically if you want to, maybe. So that's really it. Radio, I'm not going to go over that. There's nothing really in there. Car is the more interesting point and the more interesting feature on this. This is where about the only thing I use in settings is this once I get everything set up. So you have your eyesight here that you can basically adjust all this stuff. Again, I'm not going to go over all of it, but that's where you'd go to adjust everything. Eyesight assist monitor, basically what that is up here on the window, it will give you a green, a yellow, and a red icon. I don't ever use that. I actually turn it off because I find it pretty annoying when you're driving on the interstate and there's a light flashing up on the top. I could see how some people would like it, but it's just not something that I really like, so I turned it off. Or you can just have different indicators on. Reverse automatic braking, I have that. It's really nice when you go to back up. Basically, it'll beep at you if someone's behind you. Driver monitor assist, I always turn this off. It sometimes stays off when you start and restart the car, but sometimes it comes back on. But I do not use the driver monitor assist at all. So I can't review that or give you any idea. I don't use it. Keyless entry, you can make it to where if it, you want it to beep at you when you unlock it. Do you want to unlock just the driver's door or all the doors? Again, tons of settings in there that you can mess with. Defogger, if you want it on 15 seconds. Interior light, you can adjust that. So if you want it on for 20 seconds, 30 seconds off. Again, tons of options here. Welcome lights, which I actually do use these. So these are kind of nice. Basically, when you approach the car, there's little lights on the window that will light up. Again, I'm not going to go through all this stuff. Now, this is some of the stuff that you may want to turn off or leave on. Your vehicle dynamic control. I always leave that on. Again, there's no physical button for that like there is on the older Outbacks, but that's how you do it there. Auto start stop, you can turn it off here. I will show you an easier way to turn it off because I turn this off every single time I start the car because it's just not a very good system. It's very jarring, it's not very smooth, and you have to turn it off every time you start the car, otherwise it just resets and turns itself back on. So you got your auto vehicle hold, which I actually have off. It's not really something that I actually like. I could see how some people will like it, but it's more useful if you have a manual, not so much an automatic. I'm not really sure why they even have it on there for this. Steering responsive headlights, always leave those on. Those are great. And then your units if you want to change that. But that's it for your settings. That's probably the most in-depth thing on here is the settings. But once you get things set, you kind of just leave it, and there's an easier way to get through that. So if you keep going down, we have a little user icon. So if you want to have different drivers, again, I don't ever use that because I don't use the driver monitor assist. And then you have your little car logo. This is what I use the most. I use it every single day to turn off the auto stop start. But this is generally where you would go to change things pretty quickly. So if you wanted to add the auto vehicle hold, turn that on, you can do it like that. It's much easier than going into the settings and doing it that way. You got your driver's assist, so if you want to turn anything off there, you can do that. I have lane departure off, which you can do through the steering wheel also. There's usually about 10 ways to do each thing within the system, and there's multiple things scattered throughout that are all the same. Like, so you have your temperature and your time, but then up here on the front display, you also have your temperature and your time, which you can change that. But it's just very repetitive. You can't change that, but again, it's very repetitive. And other here is where you do your auto start stop, so that's where you turn that off every time. So basically what I do when the car starts up and this thing gets going, I just hit that, go to other, and turn that off because that's not something that I leave it on sometimes, but very rarely just because it's just so jarring. So that's kind of annoying, you have to turn that off. This is where you can do change your volumes, your driver monitor assist if you want to turn that on or off. Again, that stays off sometimes when you restart the car, sometimes it doesn't. It's kind of got a mind of its own. And now let's get to everything kind of around here. So you do have some physical buttons. You do not have enough, at least in my opinion. So you have your hazard here, your volume knob, your tune knob, which is great. You got your defrosters here, which is nice, just so you can press those. But let's say you want to turn on your heated seats. Well, there's no more physical buttons for that. So basically what you do, you go down here, and just to mention, this bottom row never changes. So they actually could have put physical buttons down here. I'm not really sure why they didn't, but this row never changes. There's no way to adjust it. So if you want to turn on your heated seats while you're driving, you have to hit this, which sometimes doesn't actually work, and then you have to hit your heated seats. It is a really dangerous system, especially when you're driving. I don't understand why there's no physical buttons for that. I understand the big tablet, the 11.6 inch tablet screen, but this is a very dangerous system to control your heated seats or even adjust your AC. So let's say you want to turn that on, so you have that on, and let's say you want to adjust your temperature. That's easy to do. There's physical buttons for that. Which are nice, but if you want to adjust your fan speed, you actually have to hit this teeny tiny button down here, which when you're driving, it's not the easiest thing to hit, and sometimes it's laggy, or you hit it, it won't respond. It's just a mess. That's one thing I actually hate about this car, is that it's just a really stupid system. I do not know why they did that. Obviously someone wasn't paying attention when they were designing the car, or they just wanted the biggest screen they could get, and they're like, you know what, we're gonna make it 11.6 inch, so we're gonna have to put all the HVAC stuff down there. It's a pain, but that's what it is. And I'll show you the Android Auto and the Apple CarPlay. One of these USBs down here will actually work. There we go. So once you plug it into the right USB, your Apple CarPlay will pop up, but look how small it is. How would you actually change that? Like if you wanted to go through and let's say it's a jacked up system. Again, this is another complaint. I love this car, but this is another complaint I have, is that your Apple CarPlay is so small. It is tiny. Like these icons, we have a Subaru Ascent, which is much better implemented on that, but this is a jacked up system. I'm not really sure what they did here. The only positive is that you can actually do multiple setups here. So if you want to have the radio and your, your destination or your phone, or if you're listening to a podcast or something, you can do that through here, which is nice. But overall, it's way too small. There's no way to adjust it to make it bigger, which is kind of a pain. But this is what you have to deal with. Again, I kind of wish this tablet style screen was flipped the other way. I know that would have been a hard design with the vents and everything, but I kind of wish it was flipped the other direction. But overall, it's very crisp, very responsive when you can find the buttons because they're so small. See, everything kind of goes pretty quick. There's not a whole lot of lag. I believe it's much quicker than a lot of your other systems out there. You go through your phone settings or your settings there. It's nice. I don't have any complaints about the color or the responsiveness of the touchscreen when it gets going, but it's just too small of a system. So now we're back to that. That's my general overview. Once you get it set up, again, the only place I usually go is in here to turn off the auto start stop, and then your HVAC you always have to jack around with down there, which is silly. But at least you can, once you get it on and set to a setting you want, you can adjust your temperature fairly easily. And then the sink, you just have to go in there to turn it off. I believe you do. Let's see. If they go to control theirs over there, the sink will automatically turn off, but or maybe not. There we go. So that is it. Generally, I'm happy with this. Let's see if the navigation ever showed up. See, it still does not show up. It just takes it too long so again, I don't ever use the navigation up there. But overall, I'm happy with it, besides the HVAC system being down there, all jacked up, and the auto start stop, but that has nothing to do with the infotainment. That's just what Subaru's doing with all of their vehicles. So that's it. That's my overall kind of general overview of that. I'll give a shot of the kind of display here, the middle screen. This is a little bit part of the infotainment system. So you have your RPMs and your speedometer on the right, and then you have a little screen here that you can adjust. So you have your auto start stop, where it shows you how much fuel you saved. You have your tire pressure, which mine doesn't have any currently because I haven't moved the car. Your compass, a blank screen. I assume that's the navigation because it does take it a little bit to get going. Your FM radio, your outside temperature, again, tons of additional information, and you have the same thing in both screens there. I'm not sure why you would need that. Your average fuel mileage, all that jazz. Again, nothing too crazy here. But that's it, guys. Overall, happy with it 85% of the time. That 15% could be a deal breaker for some people, so go to the dealership, really take a look at it, make sure you're okay with all the HVAC stuff being down here at the bottom. It's not safe to control when you're driving. It's, at least if you're not in a safe cruise distance or something like that. It's just a kind of a little bit cumbersome system. I miss having physical knobs. So that's it. If you have any questions, feel free to leave comments below. If you like this video, please like it. I will do more random stuff like this as I go. Have a good rest of the day, and I will see you guys next time.